Hi there, my name's Matt Murray, and this is my learning journey for the teaching kindergarten class at UOIT. The first thing that stood out to me in this program is the idea that children are competent and capable, and that they have a ton of creativity and a lot to offer. At that young age, in kindergarten, the neurons are firing much more than many other ages, and it's so crucial that we capitalize on that time and invest in them in such a way that we foster that creativity and help them to understand their abilities. One of the ways I think we need to try to do this is by moving towards an inquiry and play-based learning model. For the longest time, we've based our kindergarten education off of the idea of monthly or weekly themes. And while these aren't necessarily bad, they don't necessarily help promote higher order thinking. And we need to move away from those traditional kind of abstract themes and really move towards that inquiry focus. Unfortunately, with themes, they just kind of become too predictable and consistent. And while that might be a very encouraging thing on the at first thought, the reality is it doesn't help to develop those children and move them up higher on the Bloom's taxonomy of creativity and engagement with material that children need. With inquiry, on the other hand, it is a little more challenging in that you have to be flexible, you have to adapt on the fly and see how children are interacting with different things, and you provide options for them to explore and to dive deeply into the different questions they have. And it's so crucial that as educators, that with those children's explorations, we need to have wonderful, deep questions. We need to help them by pushing them to dive deeper and provoke thought and wonder into what they're engaging. For example, if they are playing with blocks and they're building blocks, they're trying to make a high tower, instead of just letting them build that high tower, perhaps come alongside them and prompt them or provoke their thought by asking questions like, well, what happens if we were to put this tower on pillows? Will we still be able to have a high tower? What if we started with only one block at the bottom and we tried to go as high as we could? Would it be better if we tried many blocks in the bottom? And really try to help them to dive more deeply into the content at hand and wrestle with those things. I mean, that's the heart of inquiry. Additionally, we as teachers need to come alongside them as they play. We need to observe, and sometimes it's a temptation to dive in too quickly and to direct how they're playing or tell them the right way of doing things. But as teachers, we need to observe and see what they're doing, and again, ask those deep questions to help them explain what their process is and what their creativity is in that particular activity. They can come up with remarkable things. Their imaginations are amazing, and we don't want to crush that by any means. Furthermore, with this course, I've learned that outdoor education is really important as well, and really helps that inquiry process. In that as they go outside and they encounter the world around them, they'll have wonder and awe for the little things that perhaps maybe we don't even notice. And not only that, is it's healthy to get outside as well, and it's good for them to be exposed to the elements and to see how they handle those things as well. And so that's just so crucial. And a part of that wonder can be brought back into the classroom. And a wonderful teaching model is to have provocations or things that spark further learning. Whether that's bringing in seeds and asking what they could do with them, or whether that's bringing in flowers or a plant that maybe looks a little bit different. There's so many things that maybe we can help to spark that interest and that inquiry for them. Many teachers now have wonder tables or wonder boards, and children can bring things in from home about questions they have. And maybe that means having to help them, guide them along the process of what is a good question, but all of those things add to the development of inquiry, provoking interest, exploration, and investigation. Throughout the second half of the kindergarten class, there were a few key concepts that stood out to me on my learning journey in pursuit of becoming an effective kindergarten educator. One of the first things that stood out to me is the importance of integration of curriculum, whether that's social studies or language or math or science or the arts. Integration is so crucial for kindergarten students in their engagement with the material, but also helping them become more effective learners. In particular, one of the key subject areas that require a lot of attention is oral language or language development. In that, for many of them, they're coming in not being able to read or write, or certainly are in the process of learning those things. And so oral language is the primary means in which they communicate their thoughts and ideas. So one way in which that can be done effectively is to incorporate wordless picture books. When these are read to students or pictures are shown, they're able to unpack their words and develop greater vocabulary to describe what they're seeing or what the setting is like or what is happening in the narrative of that idea. And it really builds their creativity and I think achieves a lot for their development as learners. And ultimately, with all of these activities, certainly with language and math, we need to be asking the question, why this learning for this child in this way? If it's not personalized and given thought, I don't think we're being effective as educators. We need to critically think through the why of what we do. Another subject as we integrate and we try to incorporate these things, we need to be careful when we introduce math that we aren't placing unnecessary anxiety on students. So many, and certainly this is true throughout many grades, carry a lot of math anxiety. And I think with the early stages of a child's educational career or life, we need to build that excitement, the exploration, the joy that can come through problem solving and making mistakes and being okay to make mistakes. And I think through manipulatives and play within math, it's a great way to build that confidence early on in the stages of our kindergarten students. Some other key areas of learning for me have been the importance of a classroom setup or the classroom environment. Oftentimes, if you choose too flashy of colors, it can be a distraction to many students, and we're not taking into consideration perhaps students who may be on a spectrum of learning disabilities or perhaps even autism. However, if we go too bland, that can be a bit of a distraction in a sense as well, in that maybe it's not promoting creativity or being able to experience the joy that comes through seeing various different colors. And so we just need to think through those things very clearly. The setup of a classroom is also very important. The layout, the items that are used in the class. As you can see in one of my pictures here, those crescent-shaped tables are wonderful because it allows to be used for multiple purposes. Or different tables that can be linked together are also very important so that you can maximize the things you have in your space. Clear sight lines, be able to be aware of where students are at, but also open spaces so students feel safe and able to creatively participate in a play-based environment. Self-regulation is of crucial importance for kindergarten students. Many have likened it to the importance of understanding it like a thermostat, in that students can gauge their emotional temperature of themselves, but also of others, so that they can make wise choices that help them to stay on task. Shanker has 5 domains on self-regulation, where he talks about biological, emotional, cognitive, social, and pro-social. It just goes to show you that it's so much more robust than coming in and doing a task on their own. While that is important, it really speaks to the value of speaking to the whole child and their development and self-regulation in all areas of their life. Some other wonderful tips I've learned throughout the program and evaluating the kindergarten classroom is the importance of a healthy relationship with the ECE, the fellow educator in the classroom. You need to be clear on your roles and responsibilities and learn how to collaboratively work together so that there isn't a power struggle or misunderstandings on who does what. And so if that team is established well, it can be a wonderful impact for the classroom. Additionally, I've learned the importance of not necessarily having too much paper and pencil. Really, this can limit the learning, and ultimately many of them aren't writing that effectively anyway. It's not to say that we shouldn't incorporate journaling and taking notes, but experience is a much better form of learning and assessment for the students. And we can do that by coming alongside of them, asking rich questions, and observing what they are doing. This kind of speaks to assessment as well, and that while conferencing can be effective, it can also just be a little bit intimidating. When you think of your own perspective, when you go to an interview, you aren't at your best. And so we need to be aware that the students may not be at their best either when they have to come and conference and share their results. perhaps coming alongside them in the midst of an experience is a better way to assess and know where a student is at. It really is a balancing act, and it's a challenge to be an effective kindergarten educator. There's so much more that goes on behind the scenes in preparing and having an effective classroom, but we need to be committed to this, because designing an effective kindergarten classroom, it really is a strong foundation for learning, as this is where they build from this place into future grades. We really need to be reactive, extend student learning, don't always stay with our plan, but be prepared to adapt and go on the fly based on where students are at. It's been a pleasure for me growing in this experience under you, Don, and I appreciate all the words of wisdom that you have spoken into all of our lives, and we look forward to incorporating a lot of these strategies and ideas into our classrooms. Thanks very much.